In this recent powwow, if you will, on multiple things, the Culture United podcast, which is with Rob Markman, FD Signifier, Curtis King, Professor Sky, Jeremy Heckton, and who put it together is Justin Hunt, who's with...
He was with Hip Hop DX.
And Ambrosia for Heads. Yeah. And also he's got his own YouTube channel called The Company Man, which is really good. But in this particular clip, Curtis King brought up an interesting question about if not talking to media is good marketing in 2024, 2025.
Is that part of the con of the approach of doing your own rollouts without talking to responsible media? In that your only medium to express where your thoughts are at are just through the music, and you're allowing people, and I don't think any of us in here exist when I'm talking about these folks, you're allowing folks who don't really have a good comprehension of lyricism enough to break down these thoughts, to develop sober ideas upon what they're reading and what listening to. Isn't this what the pros of sitting down with media that are not going to ask you the salacious questions? And I speak of this as an artist, too, who loves the fact that I can use this era to go direct to consumer and talk to my fans. That's awesome. But I do understand when you sit with somebody who's done homework and can ask you these questions that can bring more clarity. I got two questions with this. One, do they desire that? We're having a debate about something because of how ambiguous some of the things that J. Cole was saying. Is that part of the rollout? Or would it be better suited for them to just sit down and get these ideas out? I know that's a kind of a.
I think that's tautological. I think you answered your own question there.
So I think that's a very interesting statement. He's basically saying J. Cole just drops music and disappears. And there's been a kind of a history that we've kind of talked about a little bit on the past about how some artists don't. Was it Elliott Wilson that was upset that people weren't coming to talk to him and stuff like that, right? So this kind of dips into the whole artists aren't talking to traditional hip hop, but at the same time, is it just better marketing for them because all the YouTube channels and everybody talks about the stuff anyways, and they interpret their own opinions upon it. So I just thought that was a very interesting kind of a talking point. I don't know. Guys, got any comments or thoughts?
No, this is the thing. As much as we talked about the mysteriousness of artists.
Mysterious.
But there's a balance between being mysterious and saying, okay, I'm going to sit down. Everyone is not as learned or as deep into lyrics. Maybe I can come out and if somebody asks me an actual question about my music, I can go ahead and expound upon the points that I made within the music. Like for some people, just sitting and listening to the lyrics, it's not enough. I want to hear from you as opposed to leaving things up to my own interpretation. So I would love to hear from J. Cole or Kendrick, because there are people who do super deep dives on Kendrick's music, and I'd like to believe they know what they're talking about. But at the same time, I'd like to hear directly from Kendrick what the layers are to his music. So as opposed to just leaving it up to the conspiracy theorists or, the people who are doing these deep dives, it might be, the third eye might be a little too open on what your music is about. And you're actually trying to convey a completely different message.
Yeah. Kendrick isn't one of those individuals that just doesn't sit down with people. Who's the last person that sat down?
That's what I was going to say. When was the last time? I mean, it's been almost, 5, 6, 7 years?
Kendrick will pop out every once in a while, but J. Cole his are much more rare.
The last J. Cole one I remember was Angie Martinez movie, which was like almost 8 years ago. And maybe there was one in between there, but Kendrick's was the last one that I can remember, and there's probably another one. Was probably with Rick Rubin. Was it?
I remember.
I mean, maybe I'm wrong.
I remember Cole sitting down with Ryan Coogler.
Yeah.
I messed it up. Sorry, brother. But the funny thing that happened, and not that this is what has discouraged J. Cole from doing interviews, but I remember he's like, what is it like, being a married man? And he's like, the public, I didn't announce that I'm a married man. That was kind of a weird moment, not that, but sometimes it's just like, no, I don't want to talk about this.
Yeah. Now I think sometimes the like you said, mysteriousness of the lyrics actually, without them explaining it, hold some weight. Because nobody asks songwriters and things of that nature. It's not a big deal for them to ask them what they meant by this and what you meant when you said this. They just live in the music, essentially. Rap form is a sort of poetry, so I can understand why people want to have these conversations with these artists. But I think what they actually went on to make a point on why they're actually addressing this situation.
That's the thing that I kind of wanted to speak on. It was like, is this intentional? Like, is it an intentional marketing tactic by Cole and Kendrick and certain artists to not talk to certain people because it's going to create the internet? All the hip hop media outlets are now going to talk about what this potentially could mean because everybody's trying to compete with the algorithm.
These two guys have the mystique with them is the fact that they're so good and elite at what they do that the nerd in me or as a consumer is like, okay, I want to kind of guess and see where he's going. I want to get the project and listen and have just a clear palette to make my own decision as to where I think he's going, opposed to sometimes having them come out and do the normal Breakfast Club and the normal stop here and there just to explain what the album is about. Sometimes I just want to put it in and see if I can figure out where they're going, if that makes sense.
Well, at the same time, too, historically, if you notice when some of these artists go out and do these rollouts, the media asks them questions that they don't want to answer, and they know that this artist doesn't want to answer, so they want to purposely put them in a position to feel uncomfortable because for them, that's clicks.
True.
Yep.
What they made, I like that they made a point on this to say that he mentioned Angie Martinez as one of the best people to do interviews.
Yeah.
And I believe Curtis King was the one that stated that I feel like we're in that same position as well. We are the new media.
For sure.
When it comes to this shit.
True.
People that actually with hip hop and don't want to put a sour taste in people's mouth.
Yep.
We're going to be more responsible as far as that's concerned. He was mentioning that even if he doesn't go to the mainstream media, at least come to us and tell us what's going on versus remaining so reserved with what you want to do because we're not going to attack you like that.
Right.
That's a good point.
No,
that's a good point.
Because it's like, when you do decide to pop out, don't just go talk to Gayle King.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Come talk to the people who literally listen to your records and don't do it as an assignment. You know what I'm saying?
You can. I see that we see this all the time, but
nothing against Gayle King, whatever.
No shots at Gayle, but you'll see artists pop up and you can tell when something's going on. Like, for example, the Baby, he's got a project or something that he's dropping, so he's making his rounds. But
he also needs to make his rounds.
He does. To your point, he does. But I'm saying I'm using him as an example. But there's other artists that'll just go up to the Breakfast Club, as they start to make their rounds, and the content will be an hour and 15 minutes, and 45 minutes of it is Charlemagne talking about therapy and nothing that has to do with the actual project. So people will come out and like some of these rollouts are just unnecessary, and opposed to people like Curtis King who might actually ask some stuff with some substance or maybe some stuff that's closer to what these artists are more comfortable with, and then we just get up out of there. So I don't know, man, because some of the mainstream interviews are just a lot of fluff pieces. You see a lot of goofy stuff that just goes on.
They definitely ain't going to talk to academics.
No, not at all. Not at all.
He's a known glazer, and he's glazes. I'm not going to say there's even a right person to glaze.
That's fair. That's fair.
That's just crazy.
Known glazer, though. I like known glazer.
Yeah, to each their own,
Yeah, I like known glazer.
Gucci the third leg.
You like no Gucci the third leg.
Hey yo, apparently
that's a callback to a previous segment.
Yeah, apparently that brother. Never mind. Go ahead, Lon. Go ahead.
Anyways,
go ahead, Lon.
No, I was just gonna say that I think that brings up it's an interesting conversational piece, talking point. Shouts to the Culture United. Shouts to all these gentlemen here and all the other new creators that are popping up on YouTube as well, that essentially live in the same space that we do. We see y'all. And
yeah.